Hello and welcome back to compiler programming. As I explained in the last video, which I will leave in the description below, I want to work a bit more on the compile time execution, and in particular on the way that we handle values that can be part of compile time execution versus the values that are only available in runtime. I'm not going to go all over it again, so if you want to know more details, then just watch that video. But for today, what I want to do is work on scoping, right? So we want to avoid situations where we try to use a value that is only available at runtime during our compile time execution. And conceptually, that means that we would like to have two scopes instead of one, but we can also emulate existence of two scopes by just providing some tags on our scope entry. So let's try that. We will say the following. We would create an enum, type diff enum, and this will be scope entry flags, or flags, I don't know, flags. And there will be obviously none, which is 0, and then we have a bunch of flags. The first one we would like to have, I guess, is so we will call it, I'm not sure what is a good name. I don't want to call it compile time because it's very verbose, and if I want to call it the same way inside of the code and inside of the compiler itself, then I would like to avoid these overly verbose name, and I don't want to abbreviate it to comp time as well. It sounds a bit weird to me. So I think I actually like the word static. It has a bit of an overload meaning concerning C, but it's fine. Okay, so we would say this is static. This will be flag 1. And I like to make them all aligned, so this will be 1, 0, and then the next flag will be 1, 1, and so on and so forth. For now, I think that will be the only flag available here, but we will go ahead and add it in here. Scope entry flags, and say flags. Okay, so that doesn't change anything, of course, but now we need to go ahead and change how the functions actually work. So we have a scope lookup thing, and this is where we will need to change things. So the idea is as follows. Whenever you look up something, besides the scope and the name, you would have to provide the flags. So scope entry flags. Maybe I'll just shorten it. Let's go scope entry flags. It's fine. Flags or flag mask. And here we basically say that if result and result flags now the thing is, if I keep it that way, our mask will need to be like we'll need to have all one mask so that we can accept basically anything. I'm not sure I want that. How should I deal with this? I could also say that have like an inverse mask. Okay, let's just go with this option for now, and then we'll see how we want to deal with it. So flag mask Um, yeah. So once we apply the flags, we want to check that it actually matches the flags. So it should be something like this. Yeah, I think that's the correct condition. Maybe I will put it in a helper function so that I don't have to write it out explicitly everywhere. Scope entry matches flag mask, and we will get the scope entry, and we will get the mask, and we will say this stuff, right? And this will be entry, and this will be this flag mask, and result and flag mask. Okay, so that will cause a bunch of errors. First one is here, but mainly this will be errors where we actually try to look up things. So we'll have to now explicitly provide what type of lookup are we looking for. And this is already a very good case because we need to, like here we are looking up type, but we are only interested to look it up in the static scope, right? We can't use a type that is dynamic, and I think in here I don't actually check. No, I do check that it's an immediate, but this would sort of provide an additional layer of consistency that you cannot define. You cannot use dynamically defined types in here. Okay, so scope lookup type, we'll use scope entry flags static. Okay. What's next? Force constant value. The same thing actually here. Whenever we are evaluating constant expression, we should only get this stuff, and I think I should rename these to static expression to do rename to static value or something, because it's not really constant anymore, as again I explained in that video. Handle operator, the same stuff. Whenever we look up the operator, we're actually interested in static values. Okay, where are we? Parse constant expression. The same thing here. In the constant expression, we are only interested in static values. Okay, next. Statement label. This is a bit tricky. I have not decided yet how I want to deal with the labels, whether they are static values or not. I think they should be, but we will see how that works out. Okay. Next, what do we have here? We have go to. That's basically the same situation as label. Again, I'm not sure yet. Okay. Wait, if we pass the mask 0, 0 then. Okay, that's fine. Yeah. Okay, scope value entry. We are looking up the mass return value name. That is. I actually shouldn't be using 0, I should be using scope lookup flags none. Isn't it called none? Scope entry flags none. Yeah. Okay, next. Next we have the same thing. This is actually not a static value. And I missed one here. This is where we look up an operator, and yeah. So actually operators we already decided are static, but one thing I forgot to do is I changed the scope lookup, but I have not changed the scope define. Here we actually have a test, which is very nice. I will get back to this in a moment because again, I need to change scope define first. And I think I will get rid of this one because it doesn't really help much in terms of the code size anymore, and it's a necessary wrapper. So yeah, because we'll have to change it as well now. Okay, scope define. I need to remove define value. We are using it here. So this is where we'll need to change things. We will say scope entry value type scope entry type value. Yep. And we need to provide flags here. So flags is scope entry flags static. And actually the same thing goes for this stuff. All of these are static. Maybe I should somehow improve this and not have such a copy-pasty function, but that is a different topic from what we are working on right now. So for now, that is what we get. Okay. We need to have these four done as well. So let's do it this way. Yeah, I probably should clean it up a bit, but that's fine. And define value. And basically, again, the same thing here. Although, of course, this is a macro, so that means I need to add a bunch of slashes everywhere. Something like that. Scope define value. Yeah, it's not define value, it's define. Okay, this file is happy. This file we can make happy. Scope entry type value and flags. Okay, what is happening here? This is handling user defined operator. I guess this produces a non-static value, but we need to think about it for a bit and we'll see if any other tests fail because of this. So for now, that let's just say that it's none. This is called type, something I should clean up as well. Okay. So scope define value. And that doesn't exist. And another thing is here. Result value, result value. I think that was return label name. Okay, what's next? The same thing here. This defines a named return value. I could have kept this helper, but I would need to add the flags argument to it anyway, and then it would have four like named arguments, which I think is actually less readable than having this version, even though it is a bit more verbose than the other one. I think I prefer it to the other version. Okay, these are arguments, the same setup. Arguments actually probably will break our compile time tests right now because we are accessing arguments, I think, but we'll see. Okay, arg name, arg value. Okay, yeah, it's function scope as well. Who is next? Next is a macro with yeah, that's fine. Looks to be copy pasting as well because I've done the same thing in some other place before. So probably makes sense to clean this up later on. Where else do we have? Okay, this is function calls. Here we are defining, oh yeah, this is macro function calls. This is kind of interesting. Need to decide what the behavior of it should be. If we are storing the fact that the value is static on the scope entry and not on the value itself, that means that we will have problems in these kinds of scenarios where whenever we pass a static value to a macro, it should probably still stay static. And I'm not entirely certain how this is going to be handled. So to do me support propagating static flag on the value to the bound arguments. Something like that. For now, I will not do it and see what breaks. Okay. More return label stuff. Again, maybe makes sense to extract this into a function, but I will look at that separately. The statement label. This is also none, so it is source value. Sounds great. Yeah, it's context scope. Okay. Oops. What do we have next? Next we have goto. That is basically the same thing, except we are putting it into a very specific scope. And I think we are left with operators. No, parse definition. Okay, that is interesting because we'll have to somehow separate inside of this parse definition where this belongs to. Is it the static scope or a runtime one? But for now, I will just be conservative and keep the none here. Name source value sounds good. This is the same thing. Okay, who is next? Next, we have this stuff. So these are the tests. Actually, again, before we go in here, I think there were a bunch of scope defines, or more precisely, scope entry type lazy. Yeah, so here we define a lazy expression, and I guess these lazy expressions should be actually flagged as static. Flags static. Okay, what is this expression? Ooh, this one is interesting, I guess the same thing. Okay, and there is also scope entry type operator that we have to deal with. Okay, this is where we defined one, and operators are static. Yeah, so we look it up by being static and we define it by being static. That seems good. This is just looking up. Okay. And okay, now we are ready to try to fix up the tests. Scope entry type is scope tree type value, and value is test, right? And now we have flags. I don't actually have to specify the flags because they will be zero initialized anyway, but I think it helps being explicit here. Flags none. And now we can look up none. That should be fine. More of the same. Okay, so this is a test for previous stuff, and it's good to add another test for the functionality that we actually just added. And that functionality would be in here. So should limit lookup to provided flag mask. Okay, this is fine. We have a root scope, and we don't need test, and we will call this nested, and we will define the same value. Has flags, and this will be no flags. They will both be called foo, and here we would say that we want this is a static one and this is a non-static one. Okay, and the actual test will be with the fact that when we try to look up foo in the nested scope, actually this test is doing completely useless stuff. And it should look up in scope level 2, the global, not in the root scope. Okay, we try to look up in a nested one, foo, but we only say that we want these flags. So that means that we should get to this value instead. Something like that. Okay, it's time to try to run our stuff. I imagine we probably broke something, but we will deal with it as we go along. Okay, so we have one test, and that comes actually from here. Where do we define that value? Point returns structs while accepting other arguments. So what are you looking for here? So you define a 128-bit struct. I mean, this should produce correct one, but I guess it doesn't. I know what the problem is. So we have a force value. Maybe this one, yeah, okay. In here, where is it? Lazy expression, maybe that will be easier to find it. Yeah, this thing, yeah. So there is even already a comment about us mutating stuff, but we also need to copy in the flags from here. So we need to say flags is entry flags. Because what was happening is that we would define this as a lazy scope entry correctly because of usage of double colon, but then when we would resolve the lazy expression, it would lose the flags and it will turn into a runtime expression and we will no longer be able to find it. Also, I probably want to like improve the error messaging here, so like try to also look up without flags, and if I find something without flags, then I will tell you there is actually a thing that does not have flags, but well, let's just do that. So I will comment this out, but mark the line, and then I would search for could not find type. So I guess it was this message. We can verify that this is the place that actually causes the issue by trying to panic and seeing if that is the right place. Yep, it is. So if not scope entry, then we can try to say the following. Scope entry non-static or runtime entry. We will use scope entry flags none, and can say if we found a runtime entry, we make one error message, otherwise we make another error message. So to be helpful. But there is a runtime value with the same name, but only static values can be used as types. Okay, so that provides should provide a nice experience for us in this case. Let's see if that works. It didn't seem to do much. Should be able to return structs. That's interesting. That's very, very interesting. So for some reason we cannot find the. So first of all, I haven't actually checked if this fixes the problem or if I continue to have one. Okay, so that does fix the problem. The question is, why don't we detect this stuff? That is very, very curious. I would expect that this would happen. Okay, let's open up the debugger and take a quick look at it. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but this is kind of strange. And I don't like strange. I like to understand how my program actually works. Okay, so we are here. Let's try to again break it. Okay, we have it broken and we'll see what's going on. Okay. So scope lookup, do we have any results? result is null. Okay. We go to parent scope, still null. So somehow it cannot find it at all. Where are we going from here? Ah, no, but this is actually correct. This is the one that I'm interested in. Because previous one was actually testing that we can't find the type. Okay. Okay, we did find the types. We go in here, we go in here. Okay, now we have the type. Go into here. So the flag mask is completely messed up. How is that possible? Ah, no, this is because we haven't set in function. Okay. Yeah. Entry flags is none. This should return true. Yeah, it returned true. So we should return result and we should have a runtime entry. Okay. Did I miss the message? Okay. I'm severely confused. What if I... Let me verify that this is actually the message that we are seeing. Yeah, so this is not even the error that we are getting. We have somewhere another could not find type. Where's the other could not find type? Parse definition. I think you should try to use this one. No? Token match type. What does token match type do? Yeah, it looks like I need to clean all of this up. Yeah. So this looks up type, this matches type. Okay, token match type. Descriptor, token force type, token force type, cannot find type. Scope lookup type. Um, I think what's going on is we are actually um, let's go logo type, could not find name. Is this the message that we are seeing? No, this is not the message that we are seeing. Yeah, so we are seeing, I guess, this one, right? Okay, this is not something I probably should be doing right now. This will require a bunch of restructuring and changing things around, so that's not entirely interesting, but we did what we wanted to do for today. Now there is a way to define something as only static, and it seems to work as it's supposed to. We have the things that are static, we have things that are not static. I will think about how to deal with that tricky case where we have a macro. So maybe we should actually make a failing test for it so I can show you the issue that will have. Uh, Although it might not be as easy to showcase this because there are other parts of it that are not ready. But um, here's an idea. If I have, imagine I have food that is a static value, and I also have a macro ID, and that should be like this. And I also have a bar, and I want to do something like this. This is actually not a thing right now anyway, I think. Um, well, let's run and see what happens. I should fix the cannot find type thingy. So here we need to look up test is 64 bar. Let's try that. And let's try again. Okay, so that actually works. That means that, yeah, if we are running this in the context of the constant expression evaluation, then yeah, everything is actually fine and I should not worry about it. So, because when you look up the function, that is fine because the function is defined with the correct flags. When we look up this, it is also defined with the right flags. So, all in all, I think all of this is a-okay, which is great news. This, of course, by itself doesn't really change much, but it does allow us to progress forwards. We can also add a negative test, I guess, that would complain to us, where we say should not be able to use dynamic. Actually, I can't even make the broken test now, but I will show you what it looks like. Runtime values in a static context. So the broken version of this would look something like this. So I would say foo is 42, and this is a runtime value now. And then I will try to say something like this. So this, to remind you, this is the way we force compile time execution. And I guess should put this test in here. Yeah, so see, we can totally do that in this context, but we should not be able to do it in this one. Actually, now that I'm looking at it, we should not need this stuff in here, but for now we do. I'll think about how to get rid of it. Anyhow, this should basically fail, but I think it won't right now. I need a test that checks for some error messages. Result or something. Error. And that's parse errors. More parse errors. Okay. They should not actually be called parse errors. I need to rename it. I will not check for the type of it, but this should be an error. Let's verify that. And we get unknown operator. Yeah, so the reason we get unknown operator is that we right now this only exists in the constant expression. Where is this thing? Yeah, so there is dispatch constant expression. We can actually move it to regular expression, parse constant expression, parse constant definition. Where is the regular stuff that we doing? Dispatch operator, I guess. Yeah. So that is the one that we want. Here we say result token. Let's try like this. Unknown descriptor type. Okay. Is it the right test even? It is. Why are you failing with that error? Unknown descriptor type. Aha. So what is a descriptor type? The descriptor type is any. How curious. Why is it any? Let me look again at how we are doing this. So we are doing compile time 1, we're given the right scope. Everything seems okay, but when we try to return the result, oh, this is a descriptor byte size. And descriptor byte size. Okay, let me quickly look again. Yeah, so this happens when we try to move out value. Yeah, expression result value. So this is kind of interesting. I would expect the token parse expression would actually work, but it doesn't seem to be. So let's look at what's going on. We go in here, we go in here, and we should have a view with a single item. Yeah, that's exactly what we have. We have ID, we push it on the stack, that's all we do. And then we check here, and yeah, so this is where the error is. So it's this 3, 6. The issue here, actually no, everything is fine. We try to force it. Let's try it again because I was looking at it wrong. Let's go inside here, just go through all of that again. We have the token. The token is ID, it's full, yeah, everything is fine. And these things should move it out to result value. Result value, this is any, that's all okay. Scope lookup force. It cannot find the name. Interesting. Let's try again. Why can't you find the name? That's the wrong one. It's this one that we want. Okay, go in here, here. This is actually another problem that we have. This function also needs to accept flags, but that should not cause issues right now. So we are trying to look up foo, and I haven't misspelled it, right? Yeah, we have it defined here, and we are trying to look it up here. So that should be all fine, but it isn't. What is the scope that we are looking it up in? Compile time eval, eval context. Oh, okay. Yeah, that that makes sense. I think I in oh, in here. When I was doing this, I decided to use the global scope exactly because of this issue. I wanted to avoid a situation where we would accidentally try to get values at our runtime instead of compile time. And if I'm only looking at the global scope, then that's not going to happen. But that's actually not correct anymore, and this now should we need to do scope make of context allocator context scope. So we are creating a nested scope for our expression so we don't contaminate anything around it, but at the same time it does need to be a nested one. Okay, let's see if that is any better than we had before. Okay, and it succeeds, and it succeeds because we are in that scope lookup force. We also need to take scope entry flags flags, and here I should just do scope lookup scope name flags. Scope lookup should be like this. Okay. Token force value. I think in here we would need to say scope entry flags none. And we need to fix all the tests now. Luckily, it's just changing this stuff. Where is token lookup? Scope lookup force. This is where we are. Let's split it in multiple lines. Let's do none here actually. I will reformat it a bit later. For now, let's just fix up the issues that we have. Okay. They should probably all be static, but I don't want to go into that thing for now. And let's just deal with what we need to do. Here, it actually does need to be static. That is without a question. It's to be a static value when we're looking at an entry point to our program. But that does not actually help us with our problem that this does not cause an error. Well, apparently it causes a bunch of other errors that we need to now look into. So I wonder if I should be using scope static. I mean, it shouldn't matter. None should accept both of those, and I think it does. So the real question is, that means that somebody is calling token force value, and they actually mean to be token force constant value, I think. And that's interesting. Okay, let's look at this. Could not decide which overload to pick, and we will look for it here and see where it leads us. Okay, so we obviously match score is 1, so we did match. Huh. What that means. Okay, let's start looking at this stuff. What is our target? Target is a function. Okay. And where it was added? It was added in token handle function call. Okay, yeah, makes sense. We have to call. This is what we are calling naturally. Can I like jump to? Okay, yeah. Its target. Target is token force value. I think the problem is that I was a bit too eager to change this to scope lookup, and they might be not doing the same thing. Is that the case? Yeah, okay. They are actually not doing exactly the same thing. The difference here is the fact that we actually want to keep the nested scope. So this one, it not only looks up, it also, as it looks up, modifies in which scope it does it, so it can page things correctly and do other things. And right now that's not the case, and that's why we were getting this very weird error. So let's check it that way. Tag mask. Okay. So now it should be better. Flags. No. Okay. Let's run the test. I still expect our new test to fail, but everything else should still work. Okay. That's much better. Now let's get back to the main event and figure out what we want to do about that. So let me sort of explain what happens. I think I know how to fix this. So right now within these braces, we actually do token parse expression, and at least temporarily, to make the test pass until we figure out what's best there, I can just say that this needs to be a constant expression, although that will probably break this stuff. There's definitely needs to be something done about the whole constant expression, or now static expression versus non-static. Um, hmm. Another way we could try to solve this is to basically we can shove it on the context or something. Like there is a compilation context that already has a bunch of things on it. Not sure it would be such a great thing to put more stuff on it. Um, but we could just add a flag here that would say what kind of context it is that would automatically influence the lookups of stuff in a particular scope. We could also do the same thing for the scope itself. So maybe I like that a bit better. Let's just try it out. The way that would work is we would say that there is scope, um, flags default entry flags, and these would get folded in during the lookup and uh, during the definition as well. Maybe let's see what will that look like. We need to again go to scope lookup. I guess it's somewhere here. So let's get back to the test. What we want to have happened is that when we do this kind of evaluation for this nested scope, we actually say that this scope has particular flags. Now that I'm saying it out loud, it does feel like the context would be a better place for this to happen. Mm, you know what? Let's go with the original plan, where in here we would actually say token parse constant expression. I think constant expression doesn't need value any, and it looks like this. So that should fix this new test, but should break this arbitrary expression at compile time. Apparently, it just crashes over infinite loops. We will see which one is it. It does crash, and the reason it crashes, yeah, oh no, it does infinite loop. Yeah, because it will just, yeah, I can't do that. Okay, well, that is helpful because at least it says, you can't do that. But, well, that leaves us with just adding flags, and we will do that. So entry flags, and we will say scope lookup flags. Oh, scope entry flags. Entry lookup flags. Let's go with that. So now we can put this on eval context and say scope entry flags static. And then then we need to actually use that value in scope lookup force, I think. So flag mask, and we basically merge them in context scope entry lookup flags, something like that. Where did I mess up and what? So apparently I messed up this definition. That's because you have no idea what are scope entry flags. That's not great, but for now I guess that's what I have to do. Unknown descriptor type. Interesting. I expect all of them to have zeros. So who actually fails? It's this test that now fails. I wonder why. Where are we? Descriptor. So I assume we again end up in a case where we have any for the out value. Yeah. But why do we have any here now? So I assume that's because we cannot look up what we need to look up. So some of the entries are... Yeah, okay. So I think this is exactly where we run into the case which I was anticipated originally. This is why I wrote this test, but it was working because of another thing that was broken, and now it doesn't work because we fixed that other thing. And what happens here is that when we define the arguments for the macros, they become this thing, they become non-static, and we can't look them up. I can't be 100% sure that that's exactly what happens, but it probably is. So what is happening here? So we are trying to do this stuff, right? So we are compile, creating. Yeah. Well, two things. First thing is, let's actually fix the fact that we are exploding. And this is something that we can do, because here we can say it actually needs to happen here, where we say return 0, and we say mass try eval context result. So what this does is yeah, this is probably more expressive. If we had an error inside of this evaluation, then we would just stop here and don't do anything else. And now the thing about what we should do actually is propagate this to say context result is eval context result. Yeah, that sounds good. So that should fix the crash, but should not fix the actual problem. Yeah, okay, so that's better. Now we actually get the proper error, and it is what I thought it was. We cannot find this variable x in here. And that is something we can fix. It's this thing. But I think specifically for macros, I'm not sure if this is also correct or not. Think if this is correct. So I will add an fix me here, but doing this should actually help. So whenever we are expanding the macro, we are just saying that the newly defined scope entries are the same type or the same flags as the context itself. Not sure that's entirely correct. I will need to like think about it and go through all the cases one by one, maybe I'd form you a test, but for now, let's see if it actually fixes the issue. Okay. That does not fix the issue. Why doesn't it though? So let's, I guess, go through the compile time eval and see what's going on there. Okay. Step inside, parse expression. We should come across a value. What is this token? The token is ID. Okay, that's fine. Come across parenthesized group, and we want to handle the operator. We come here. Okay, we come here. And we are doing the function call. This is not a cast, this is not a variant of. This is a function call. We go inside of there. Actually, this is not what we want. I said we go inside of there. And do we get the target correctly? We did. But but there was an error. Why was there an error? And what is that error? Mm, that is very, very strange. So when we try to handle the function call, we cannot find x, but you should not have even tried to do it. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, let's step in here and see what's going on. We are trying to force the function value. We go into here. We are looking up here. And I guess no, that should be fine. So let's step inside. We have a mask. What are we looking for? We're looking for ID. We should find it. We do. This is a lazy expression. We do this stuff. We copy the context. Okay. That is where the issue is, I think. Maybe. So we are in lazy expression, and that lazy expression is the macro function. I think, yeah. So actually, no, this goes inside the constant expression, and here we go through the through this part. So how we deal with the macro. So this is even more interesting. Why this is a case. Operator is arrow. Yeah, so we are parsing the function right now. This is a function and process function literal. Okay, let's go and look in there. I'm also not certain that this is correct, that we are just putting it in global scope, but okay. Um, okay, this is argument stuff. And I think this is where we have an issue because We are copying out the context here, but we are not. We should actually reset. Yeah. So that is 2282. What needs to happen here is flags is our scope entry. Flags is a scope entry. Flags none. And I think the same thing needs to happen for the body of the function. That still is. Yeah, and that actually does not happen here. That happens in here somewhere. Yeah, this is where we compile the actual function, so we should do the following, I think. If it is let's try it like that. I'm not entirely certain. Okay, so that did fix the issue that we were having there, and it did fix our tests. I mean, this is actually now what we expect. The only problem is I need to be using this setup, and I can do this. Cool. Okay, that seems to work. That was quite a roller coaster. I still have a lot of things to think about, but I'm pretty happy with the progress. So this is now an error, and the other one in the macro is works just as expected, so this stuff works. That is exactly how I want this system to work. Again, there is probably things to clean up, but that can be done separately. If you stayed with me this far, then thank you very much for watching, and hopefully see you next time.